Hey everyone, I'm Passionate Loser, and this is...
I didn't prepare for this.
So today we want to talk about ghost stories, because we've been watching a lot of ghost things online and thought it'd be kind of fun to share some of our stories, because the other day we were talking for a couple hours about everything, and it would be kind of fun to actually share some of our stories. So my first ghost story, what happened when I was a kid. I used to live in Suquamish, and it was a really haunted house. My dad said it was the most haunted house he's lived in. The only thing I really remember happening there was I used to share a room with my dad. I woke up in the middle of the night and I seen this kind of man dressed in camouflage, standing by the bed staring at me. And I was just crying because I thought it was some random guy, because he looked solid, and it just looked like a man standing there, and I was crying and crying and crying. It's probably a few seconds, but it felt like it was a long time. It felt like it was for a few minutes. When Dad woke up and I tried to tell him what was going on, he jumped out of bed and turned on the lights. Nobody was there. But I remember, it's so vivid. There was definitely a man there staring at me.
I remember a whole lot about my first encounters, but the very first ones I do remember was, when I was in my early teens, and I was dealing with major depression at the time. So, I stayed in my room a lot for a period of time, and, I think, whatever was there fed into it, because there were times where I would feel some breathing on the back of my neck, and I knew, there was something there, because my hair, wasn't, this long, that it is now, but it was short, and I could feel it, going against the back of my neck. And, sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night to some whispering in my closet, now I definitely keep my closet door shut wherever I sleep. And that's naming quite a few different encounters, because that happened a lot during that time.
Yeah, that is true. I can't leave the door open. Even if the closet door is open a crack, she makes me get out of bed just to shut it. That would be really scary though, hearing those kind of things.
No.
You're really good at conversation.
I am.
Tells me when I'm supposed to speak and do my part. My stories are concentrated in one place because I lived in the same apartment for 17 years of my life. So it's where I've had a lot of my experiences happen. And we did have a shadow of a kid there. My dad seen it and I seen it. And it felt like it was really playful. Because I remember in high school, for a period of time, because things would happen, then I would kind of slow it down, then I'd pick up again, then slow it down and pick up again. And during one of the upticks where things were happening a lot, there was stairs. So in the staircase, there's the staircase was here, there's a wall, the TV was here by the staircase, and then the couch was on the wall going away from the staircase. And when I wouldn't look at directly at the TV, if I went to look at my dad or something caught my attention and I wasn't looking directly at the TV where the staircase was, I would see what looked like a shadow, the head and kind of part of the body, look around the staircase. And then when I went to go look at it, because seeing in the corner of my eye, it would go back. But the weird thing is I always blew it off like it was my hair. But then I had longer hair than I did at that point, and it never happened again. But I don't understand, because when I would look at it, my hair would go this way, but the shadow would go that way. So I don't know. I went in direct, a different direction than my hair did. But like if this is like the wall of the staircase, the shadow would like peek out like that and like look, and then when I went to go look at it, it would quickly like duck back in to like behind the wall. And I've seen that multiple times.
There was actually a lot that happened at my dad's old place and my house that I had back in Port Angeles. One specific thing that I do remember a lot, I was getting out of my bedroom at my dad's. My dad was home too. It was just me and him. I walked out and I seen him, walking towards the kitchen, and I was trying to, get his attention. I was like, Dad. And, he kept walking. I could hear the footsteps and everything. I seen his whole body. I didn't see the face, but I saw his whole body. And he turned around the corner to get into the laundry room. And I turned the corner, the lights were off, and he was not in there at all. And I was so confused. When that happened, I walked to my dad's room to see, where the heck he was, because, I wasn't, even sure what was happening. But my dad was sitting on his bed in his room, and I pretty much told him what happened, and, he believed me, because, these things happened a lot at that place. Really strange things. When I was in my old bedroom, there used to be bunk beds, but it wasn't just like a regular bunk bed. It was 2 twin beds, but one, was facing the wall like that. The other was down like that. I usually slept on the bottom bunk, but my friend was over to spend the night with me, and I slept on the top bunk. I guess she did try to wake me up in the middle of the night, but I was out. She told me that she heard something in the closet whispering her name, and she tried shaking me awake, but she just ended up climbing up on the top bunk with me on the opposite side, so I didn't hear about it until the morning after. So that was pretty scary.
That would be really scary. From my experiences, a lot of them aren't really that scary, but she's had more scary experiences than I have. A lot of my experiences, I feel like, are just things either being playful or just trying to show that they're there. For her, I think she actually had things trying to scare her, which is way different than what I've dealt with. It's okay. But but I don't know, I think one of the scariest things that happened to me, that wasn't just playful but actually scary, is we were in a car crash a couple years ago. We crashed into a pole, and so we had to spend the night at someone's house, and she knew that place was haunted. She made me check the windows and everything, before bed, and it's whatever. And then we crawled into bed, and then I don't know what time it was, it's all kind of blur. I just remember waking up, and I had this sense of dread, and I looked at the windows, and I seen this shadow man just walk in through the window, walk to the side where the wall is, and he just stood, and he went like that, and kind of went like that, but the arms from here down was going in all weird directions, but from here to the elbow was straight, so it was only this part doing weird waves, and the legs the same, beneath the knee was going in all different directions that were impossible, but the knee up was just staying still. And it just looked at me like this while its arms and stuff were going different directions, and I was just feeling this sense of dread. And then it stopped. got straight, and then walked across the window to the other side, and then did the same thing where he tilted its head and went like that, and its arms and legs are going in weird directions, but only half of it. The other half, like from the elbow up and from the knee up, was just completely still. Like it should not have been moving in that way. And that's the only time I've ever felt like dread or like scared being an adult having things happen, because as a kid, when things happen, I was kind of scared because I was a kid. But as I grew up, I stopped being scared. But that thing actually really did scare me a lot. You know, and the thing about it is I can brush that off, and maybe it was just like the crash and, you know, just the emotions and everything. But it's something that she has seen a lot before, and something that she thinks is following her, because she sees a shadow person once in a while that is exactly like that, where it looks at her like that, and the arms and legs also moves like that.
Yeah, it's been there since I was a teenager. Yeah, like it didn't always move its arms and legs like that. You know, sometimes it would just be, you know, standing at the foot of my bed or the side of the bed, and it would just tilt its head, you know, and just stand there, you know, and it's like that used to like scare the hell out of me, because, you know, like who wants to be watched, you know, and they're asleep in the middle of the night where it's all dark. You know, after long enough period of time, I got the rope lights that I always hang up in my room now, you know, because of like these weird things happening, and I'm pretty sure that one has just stuck with me.
It is really scary, because I don't think I'll ever forget that kind of like dread that I felt when that happened. It's really the only time I've ever really felt that kind of dread and scared as something happened. There's things that kind of took me by surprise or startled me, but nothing really scared me like that. No, but her place was really haunted, because before we moved in together, she had a house in Port Angeles, and like I experienced a few things there. I would only be there on the weekends for like a couple months before we moved in together. But I think it was like my first weekend there, because she had a bathroom in the bedroom, and she liked the bathroom door closed. And like I went pee in the middle of the night, and I was walking, and I walked out of the bathroom, and I was turning the corner for bed, and I realized that it was like a jar open like this, and I paid no attention. I was like, I'll just shut it next time and get up, because it's like in the middle of the night, and I'm tired, and I just want to go back to sleep. But then as I turned the corner, I was like walking, I seen a really bright light from that bathroom, and it lasted only a few seconds. And I looked directly at it, and I was like, that's kind of weird. But I just assumed that maybe it was like a car driving by, and it was like the headlights. So I just went back to sleep. And then I actually like looked in that bathroom, not long after that, to see where the windows were, and there's no windows in that bathroom. There was no reason for a light to be in there, because the light, I turned off the light, there was no windows, so it should have just been black. There should have been no reason for a light like that.
And there was no room for, you know, light pollution in there.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of weird. It didn't really scare me, but that was just kind of like a really strange kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, there's also heard the music that always played, you know, while laying there in that bed. It's one of the strangest and scariest things, to be honest, and, you know, it's always been, you know, just me hearing it. But he heard it that night as well.
Yeah, one night we did hear some like music faintly, but it was only when my head was like on the pillow, and I raised my head to try to like hear it. I couldn't really hear it, but when I laid my head back down, I heard a really faint kind of music, you know. But that only happened to me like one night while I was there.
Yeah, it happened every night for me while being there. I'd hear almost like a radio playing. You'd hear, whatever song is playing, and, you'd hear, the talking, like, after the song, like a radio station. Like, there were nights where it did that, and then, one that was kind of creepy. It was like old-fashioned music. It sounded like a woman singing, with the piano in the background. And another one is specifically like my type of playlist. It always started with Tears Don't Fall by Bullet for My Valentine. It always started with that song, and then it would go on to the next song and the next song, but I wasn't playing any music. It was happening, towards, my closet area, it was always around that area, or you would hear it in the very back bedroom, across from my bedroom there.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of my stuff happened when I lived with my dad at his apartment for like 17 years. One of the most because there was a lot of things that used to happen there. Like I used to feel like a cold breeze in the bathroom, But one of the most active nights, because a lot of the time it would just one thing happen, and then it wouldn't happen for a minute. But one night, because I would always watch anime or a movie until 2, 3 in the morning. Then I would go to bed. But I went pee before going to bed, and then when I went back to my room, I heard this scratching, and it freaked me out for a second. And then my mandolin fell, so I'm assuming that scratching was my mandolin slowly sliding down because it was leaning against the wall. So it's if this is the wall, the mandolin was leaning against it underneath my windowsill, which is on the other side of my room that I barely even went to because I never went by my window. I would just go from my door to my bed, and from my bed to the door. So there's no reason it would have fell because it was leaning there for months. But I just walked in my room, and it just started slowly sliding down. And I thought that was kind of weird because nothing should have made it happen. But it's it's probably just some weird coincidence. So I crawled into bed and I turned off the lights. And then I started hearing popping from the closet, because sometimes I'd hear things in my closet. It's 3 pops, it's but kind of really deep but kind of loud. And it's 3 pops really quick together, happening in the closet. And my head is maybe 3 feet away from my closet, so it's really close. And I try to write it off okay, this is kind of weird, just hearing that, but it's probably nothing. But the thing that made me realize there was something was maybe a minute later, I heard creaking in the hallway, someone was walking. And I've never heard creaking in the hallway. Only 2 times did I hear actually creaking in the hallway, and both times it was something paranormal. But it wouldn't creak when I walked, and it wouldn't creak when my dad would walk. It just never creaked when anyone would walk. So I don't know why I would hear creaking someone was walking in the hallway. And it would creak a couple steps and then stop, and then a little bit later I'd hear a few more steps and it would stop. And I only heard it that one night, and I only heard creaking someone walking only 2 times in my 17 years of living there. I thought it was kind of weird. After that, I was okay, it's probably something probably made the mandolin fell, did some popping in the closet, and that it was just weird. It was very strange how it was one thing after another that night. It's 3 things, and after the 3rd thing, it's I can't really ignore this now. Something's definitely going on.
Yeah, it was common to hear creaks for me. One that was really hard for me to ignore was, I just got back to my house, I was by myself. So I had my phone and my keys still on my person. I went into my bedroom, had the door closed, and next thing you know, I hear footsteps, in my living room, and, I was thinking, what the hell, nobody else should be here. And so I, opened the door, and it sounded like somebody, was running right, towards me. Like they charged at me, but there was nobody there. So, after that, I was like, oh, hell no. So I ran out of there. I didn't turn off any lights. I don't even remember if I even closed the front door behind me. I just remember I ran. I drove down to my dad's and I spent the night there. Because I was just that spooked that night.
Yeah, that would be kind of scary.
How do you even handle that? Having something you can't see charge at you.
Well, you go to your bedroom and you lock the door like an adult. That does sound really terrifying though. But at the apartment I lived with at my dad, there was definitely a mimic there. I thought just any ghost could do that. No, I thought it was just a common thing for ghosts, but after watching some ghost things on YouTube, I think it's a specific kind of ghost because you keep mentioning it as a mimic, which I never really heard before. But there's definitely a mimic there, because my dad would tell me how sometimes he heard my voice in the hallway, because he heard voices in the hallway. And he's like, Michael, you should leave your door open at night and see if you can hear them too. He's like, Dad, I'm not doing that. I don't want to hear speaking in the hallway. I don't know why you think I sleep with my door open just to hear that. But so sometimes he would hear my voice coming from the hallway, and he would call out to see what I was saying, because he couldn't make out what I said. He just heard my voice talking, and I would not reply to him. And that's how he knew it was a ghost and not me. But one time I heard him clear as day, because our morning routine at that point was he would go downstairs, he would make coffee, and I would lay in bed for a few minutes, and then I would get up and go downstairs and make coffee with him. And I heard him walking downstairs. And he wouldn't tell me that coffee was done because he knew I would come down in a few minutes. But I heard him walking downstairs, and then only maybe a minute later, I hear him upstairs saying, Michael, I put on coffee, just like that. With the up inflection and everything, but it's his voice. Which didn't make sense because he would not walk upstairs to tell me that. But at first it was his voice and I wasn't expecting it. It's okay, he's just having coffee, so I kind of ignored and didn't reply, because why would I reply to my dad, But then I was wait a second, he wouldn't be upstairs, this makes no sense. So I called out and I was Dad, was that you? And I got no response. I was Dad, and I got no response, he just did not respond to me. So then I got up and I went downstairs. And I was hey Dad, did you tell me that you put on coffee? And he was no. He's I could have sworn I heard you upstairs Michael, I put on coffee. And then you just didn't respond when I called out to see if it was you, because it made no sense. Yeah, I didn't say that. I was done here all the whole time. I didn't tell you anything. So we thought that was kind of weird. So there's definitely a mimic there, because I heard his voice that once I could think of. And he's heard my voice a few times come from the hallway. That's all I have for this video, because it is kind of a longer video. We have a lot more stories, so if you're interested, let us know down in the comments below, and we can film a part 2. But also let me know what happened to you. What was your first experience, or what was your previous experience? I'd like to hear those in the comments below as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because if I get 20 subscribers, I hear she's gonna marry me, right?
No.
So make sure to subscribe. I'm 2 subscribers away. You heard that, it was clear as day, yes. So why don't you subscribe and we can get married.
No.